November 26, 1944, sky over Hanover, Germany. At an altitude of 8,000 meters, 23-year-old Lieutenant Bert Stiles leads his P-51 Mustang into battle against 40 German Focke-Wulf fighters. Just 1 month ago, he finished his memoir, 216 pages about life, about death, about the sky over Germany. The last lines were about hope, about the future, about peace. In 15 minutes, his plane will crash into the ground at full speed. Instant death. He is 23 years old, but this is the end of the story. And the beginning began 18 months before this, in a quiet college town in Colorado, in a room littered with sheets of paper and unfinished stories. Because before Bert Stiles became a pilot, he was a writer. Denver, Colorado, August 30th, 1920. A boy was born into the family of a simple electrician and a music teacher. An ordinary American home on South York Street in the Washington Park neighborhood. An ordinary childhood of the Jazz Age and the Great Depression. But Bert Stiles was not an ordinary child. In summer, he worked as a junior forest ranger in Estes Park, the mountains of Colorado. Endless forests, silence broken only by wind in the pines. There, among the trees, he learned to see, to observe, to remember every detail. These summer days would become material for his first stories. 1938, South High School in Denver. Graduation. Bert enters Colorado College. He has one passion, to write. Stories, poems, everything that comes to mind. He becomes a writer for the student newspaper, The Tiger. He writes about life, about politics, about the war in Europe that seems so distant. His views are pacifist. It's fashionable in those years. A young idealist who believes that war can be avoided. June 1941. 6 months before Pearl Harbor. Bert Stiles locks himself in his fraternity house, alone, with a typewriter and a stack of clean paper. The goal is insane, to write as many stories as possible before inspiration runs out. In 1 month, he wrote 27 stories. 27. Some were published, local magazines, nothing loud, but it was a beginning. Bert Stiles dreamed of becoming a writer, a real writer, after college, after he saw the world. But the world saw him first. December 7th, 1941, Pearl Harbor. America enters the war. And pacifist Bert Stiles understands that some things are worth fighting for. Later he would write, "The Nazis threatened the very concept of Western civilization, threatened the idea that people are just people, that they have the right to be free." January 1943. Bert is 22 years old. He drops out of college and joins the Army, voluntarily, aviation cadet. He wants to fly. Training, drills, flight theory, control stick, instrument panel. Sky over Texas and Oklahoma, November 1943. Bert Stiles receives his pilot's wings and the rank of second lieutenant in the Army Air Forces. In the graduation photo, he's smiling, young, handsome, with the dreamy eyes of a writer. He doesn't know that in a year, he'll be dead. March 1944, England. Gray sky, eternal fog, cold barracks at the airfield. Lieutenant Bert Stiles arrives at Bassingbourn Air Base, 401st Bombardment Squadron, 91st Bombardment Group. Nickname, the Ragged Irregulars. He doesn't yet know that he's joined the group with the highest losses in the entire 8th Air Force, the same group where the legendary Memphis Belle flew. England in the spring of 1944, flat green fields of eastern England. Bassingbourn Airfield, rows of heavy B-17 Flying Fortress bombers, enormous 4-engine machines. Each carries a crew of 10 men, each packed to capacity with bombs. Each heads into hell, and not each one returns. Bert Stiles is a co-pilot, right seat. He doesn't command the aircraft. He assists, observes, and writes. Always writes, in a notebook, on scraps of paper. Remembers every detail. His commander is Second Lieutenant Sam Newton. They knew each other from Colorado College, fraternity brothers, now brothers in arms. Their plane is called Time's a-Wastin', fuselage code LLD B-17G, serial number 42102504, the Big Bird. April 19th, 1944, first combat mission, target, Kassel, Germany. Bert Stiles would later write, "It was summer and there was war all over the world. Simple words, terrible truth. Take off at 5 in the morning. Fog rolls across the airfield. 4 engines roar. The plane trembles, gaining speed. The runway flashes beneath the wheels. And then, liftoff. The ground falls away. Ahead, the sky. Stiles looks at the B-17s ahead and beside them. Dozens of planes, hundreds. They form up. This takes an hour. A whole hour of circling over England until all groups assemble into wings. He would write about this. The 8th Air Force allowed about an hour of every mission for everyone to find their place. The wingman looked for his element leader. The element leader looked for his squadron leader. And the squadron leader tried to stay close to the group. Chaos in the sky. Organized chaos. And then, the English Channel. The coast of France. The border. Beyond it, enemy territory. Stiles writes about the B-17 with both love and hate. On the ground with landing gear down, the fortress looks lazy, clumsy, without that eager look that the A-20 or B-26 has. Pause. But when the gear is up and the fortress is airborne, on the way to the land of doom, there isn't a prettier airplane in the sky. Another pause. But after you've admired the fort for its beauty and the way it does its job, you can stop admiring. The flying fortress is no fun to fly. Hours of monotonous flight, the drone of engines, cold at altitude, oxygen masks, glances out the windows, any fighters, and then flak. Stiles calls it flak, from the German Flugabwehrkanone, anti-aircraft artillery, black bursts in the sky, thousands of shrapnel pieces, one hits the wing, a hole the size of a fist, another in the tail, the third passes a meter from the cockpit. You can't do anything, just sit, hold the control stick, and hope that the next shell isn't yours. And then they appear, Messerschmitts and Focke-Wulfs, German fighters. They attack from all sides. The B-17's machine guns rattle. Shell casings fall to the cockpit floor. Smoke, screams on the radio. Fighters at 5 o'clock. We're on fire. Bailing out. Stiles looks left. A B-17 breaks apart in midair. The wing tears off. The fuselage spins down. 10 men, 10 lives. Maybe someone managed to jump. Maybe not. And you have no time to think. Because ahead is the target, the bomb run. You have to fly straight, level, despite the flak, despite the fighters. The bombardier looks through the sight. 5 more seconds. 4, 3, 2. Bombs away. The plane jumps upward, freed from tons of cargo. Below, a city, a factory, a railway station. In seconds, there will be explosions. Turn, reverse course. The long way home. Not everyone returns. May 1944. They fly every 2 to 3 days, sometimes consecutive days. Strategic targets in Germany. V-1 rocket launch sites. Bridges in France. Preparation for the invasion of Normandy. May 7th. First raid on Berlin, the capital of the Third Reich, the most defended target. Stiles sees anti-aircraft fire so dense, it seems you could step out and walk on the bursts. May 25th, they fly in another B-17. Shoo, 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 baby. The oxygen system fails. They return to base. Mission aborted. But they're alive. After one mission, Stiles saw at least a dozen B-17s from their wing shot down. A dozen. 120 men. He returned to base, went to his room, and collapsed. Later he would write, all those guys, all those good guys, shot to hell or captured. Then I came apart and cried like a little kid. He's temporarily grounded. Diagnosis, flak happy. That's what they called airmen whose nerves gave out from stress. Combat breakdown. You can no longer get airborne without shaking. You can't hear the sound of engines without remembering explosions. But Stiles returns, because his comrades are still there, because the job isn't finished, and he continues to write. Articles for the London Daily Mail, for Yank magazine, for Air Force magazine, and his personal diary, page after page, mission after mission. He writes about how good a candy bar tastes when you're beyond enemy territory, about the monotonous drone of B-17 engines, about the exhaustion that overwhelms the entire crew after returning. He writes about fear, about the death of friends, about bombs falling on cities below, and about what a man feels who drops those bombs. They hated war and didn't want to think about what their bombs had done. But most of all, he writes about people. Listen carefully. He wrote these words right during the war. In 1944, in the midst of combat, there are Chinamen and Cockneys and Gypsies and Negroes. There are lesbians and cornhuskers and longshoremen. There are poets and lieutenants and shortstops and prime ministers. Pause. There are Yanks and Japs and poor whites. There are Germans and Melanesians and beggars and holy rollers. There are people. Another pause. And someday we are going to catch on that no matter where people are born, or how their eyes slant, or what their blood type, they are just people. They are not masses. They will not go on being slaves. They are just people, partly good, partly bad, mostly balancing out. And until we call them people, and know they are people, all of them, we are going to have a sick world on our hands. This is a 23-year-old bomber pilot speaking. In 1944, when death and war are all around. A pacifist who became a soldier, but never stopped being a humanist. The story of Bert Stiles is just one of thousands, one of millions of stories that could have been lost forever. Stiles understood the importance of recording, preserving, remembering. He wrote even when each next mission could be his last. We continue his mission. Every day we tell forgotten stories of World War II, stories that deserve to be heard, voices that must not be silenced. If you want these stories to live, if it's important to you to preserve the memory of those who fought for our future, subscribe to the channel, because every subscription is another person who remembers, another voice that says, "We have not forgotten." And now, let's return to Bert Stiles, to the summer of 1944, to the moment when he completed his 35th combat mission and made a decision that changed everything. Mid-June 1944, the 35th mission is complete. By the rules, a pilot who flew 35 combat missions completed his tour. He was given a choice: return to the States as an instructor or remain in England for staff work. Most chose home, America, safety, not Bert Stiles. He was offered a return to the United States, to teach new pilots, to pass on experience, to live. He refused. Instead, he filed a request with one appeal: transfer him to fighter aviation. I had always wished I could fly a P-51 Mustang instead of the Big Bird. Do you understand the difference? In a B-17, you're a pilot. You control the bomber. But when German fighters attack, you can't do anything. Just sit in the seat and hope the gunners shoot them down. You're defenseless. Frustration. Helplessness. In a P-51, you're the hunter. You maneuver, attack, shoot. Your life is in your hands. Stiles always felt he should fly a fighter. But before that, he took a month. July 1944, Bassingbourn Airfield, officer's barracks, desk, typewriter, stack of paper. Bert Stiles isolated himself from the world. Like once in his fraternity house, when he wrote 27 stories in a month. But now he's not writing stories. He's writing a memoir. Everything is still fresh, too fresh. Only 2 to 3 months have passed since the first mission. The memories are painful. The faces of dead friends, the sound of exploding shells, the smell of gunpowder and engine oil. He writes page after page, day after day, Hemingway style, short sentences, simple words, deep meaning, no embellishment, no heroism, only truth, fear, exhaustion, boredom between missions, horror during them, the death of comrades and the subsequent inexpressible sadness that's impossible to describe in words. But he tries. He writes about how they hated war, about how they didn't want to think about the destruction their bombs brought, about German cities below, about people there. He writes about his hope, about the future, about how after the war there will be enough good people left in Germany for the country to become a partner. so that Germany brings happiness to the world, not sorrow. He writes about peace. 216 pages. The memoir is called Serenade to the Big Bird, a song of love and hate for the B-17, for war, for the sky. The manuscript is complete. He folds the pages into a folder, sets it aside. Now, fighters, August 1944. Conversion training to the P-51 Mustang, a completely different aircraft. Single-seat fighter, one engine, one pilot, no crew, just you and the machine. Small, fast, deadly. 505th Fighter Squadron, 339th Fighter Group. Falmere Airfield, only 5 miles from his old base at Bassingbourn. He can see B-17s taking off on missions, his former comrades. But now he flies a different machine, begins a second tour. September, October, November. Mission after mission. Bomber escort deep into Germany. Patrols, ground attack missions. 15 missions. He flies well, confidently. The dream came true. He's a fighter pilot. November 26, 1944, Sunday. Morning briefing. Mission, bomber escort to Hanover and back. Strong Luftwaffe opposition expected. The Germans defend their territory desperately. Stiles is assigned Captain James R. Starnes' aircraft, a P-51D nicknamed Tar Heel, serial number 44113. Good plane, reliable. Take off at 9 in the morning, climb to 8,000 meters. Formation of dozens of fighters. They escort bombers flying in tight formation. Weather clear, visibility excellent. Too excellent. Sky over Hanover, 11:30 in the morning. They appear from the direction of the sun. 40, 50, 60 Focke-Wulf 190s. German fighters, the whole wave. The radio explodes with shouts. Bandits! Bandits at 2 o'clock! The formation breaks apart. Every man for himself. Dogfight. Stiles sharply banks his Mustang, sees a Focke-Wulf on an intercept course, turns, sight, burst. Tracer rounds draw lines in the sky. Hit. The German fighter smokes, loses speed, spins, falls. First Lieutenant Bert Stiles' first confirmed kill, but the battle continues. Aircraft circle, dive, climb. Altitude drops. 4,000 meters, 3,000. 2. Stiles pursues another Focke-Wulf. Sharp turn. G-force presses him into the seat. Sight on target. A little more. And then, disorientation. Maybe his head spun from the G-forces. Maybe he lost the horizon in the heat of battle. Maybe for just a second he didn't understand where up was and where down was. Seconds. Fractions of seconds. But at 600 kilometers per hour, fractions of seconds are everything. The nose of the P-51 drops. Dive. The ground approaches at monstrous speed. Stiles tries to level the aircraft, pulls the stick back, but there's not enough altitude. The speed is too great. 1,000 meters, 500, 100. Impact. P-51 Tar Heel, serial number 44113, crashes into the ground south of Hanover at full speed. Nothing remains from the impact, only wreckage and smoke. The pilot is found in the wreckage. Instant death. He felt nothing. First Lieutenant Bert Stiles, 23 years old, writer, pilot, human being. He fulfilled his dream, flew a fighter, shot down an enemy aircraft, and died 4 months after beginning his second tour. On the 16th mission, he survived 35 missions on the most dangerous B-17 in the most dangerous group, survived flak, fighters, nervous breakdown, and died in a fighter, in the machine of his dreams. Lieutenant Stiles' body was buried with military honors. Ardennes American Cemetery, Nupre, Belgium, Plot E, Row 7, Grave 41, White Cross, 1 of 21,000. England, 1945. The war in Europe is over. American pilots return home. Airfields empty. In the officers' barracks of the 91st Bombardment Group, someone finds a folder with a manuscript. On the title page, Serenade to the Big Bird, by First Lieutenant Bert Stiles. The manuscript is sent to his mother, Elizabeth Huddleston Stiles, music teacher from Denver, who lost her son. She reads, page after page, her son's voice, alive, honest, full of hope and pain. 216 pages of his life. Elizabeth understands. This must be published. People must know, must remember. Not just about Bert, about all of them. About the boys who became men in the sky over Germany and didn't return. 1947, London. Lindsay Drummond Limited publishes Serenade to the Big Bird. The book comes out quietly, without advertising, without fanfare. Just 2 years after the war's end. The world is tired of war stories, but those who read understand. This isn't just a war memoir. This is literature. Critics write, Hemingway style, spare, honest, piercing. Perhaps the best memoir of the air campaign in Europe. A book of terrific impact. Perhaps the best to come out of World War II. Philadelphia Inquirer, 1952, first American edition. W.W. Norton and Company. The book finds its audience. Aviation enthusiasts, veterans, historians, writers. Serenade to the Big Bird becomes cult. Not a bestseller, but a book passed from hand to hand, spoken of in whispers. Read this, it's important. Decades pass. The book is reissued, again and again. The 1960s, the 1980s, 2001, new edition with illustrations. 2021, audiobook. 78 years since publication, and it's still being read. 2009, History Channel launches the documentary series World War II in HD. Color footage of the war, rare film, and soldiers' stories. One episode is dedicated to Bert Stiles, his photographs, his planes, his words. A new generation learns his story. Young people born 50 years after his death listen to his voice, read his book. The Serenade continues. What did the world lose when the P-51 crashed into the ground? A gifted writer. He was 23. How many books could he have written? How many stories told? An observer of human nature, who saw people as people, not enemies, not masses, people. A humanist in a cruel time. A pacifist who understood the necessity of fighting, but never stopped dreaming of peace. His final message, the last lines of Serenade to the Big Bird. In the end, it is only people that count, all the people in the whole world. Any land is beautiful to someone. Any land is worth fighting for to someone. So it isn't the land. Pause. It is the people. Epilogue, Belgium, Ardennes American Cemetery, New Prey. Plot E, row 7, grave 41, white marble cross. Engraved on it, Bert Stiles, 1st Levelton 505 Fighter SQ-339 Fighter GP Colorado, November 26, 1944. Nearby, thousands of identical crosses, 21,000, row after row, white, identical. Each one, someone's life, someone's dreams, someone's unfinished path. But Bert Stiles' book lives. 78 years since publication. It's still being read, still being reissued. His words still resonate. Why? Because he wrote the truth, without embellishment, without heroism. Just the truth about what it means to be a young man at war, to be frightened, exhausted, lost, and still continue. Because he wrote about people, about how we're all just people. And that's the only thing that matters. Bert Stiles wanted to write. He wanted to live. He wanted peace. War gave him the chance to write one book. 216 pages of life lived on the edge. Serenade to the Big Bird, a song that was never finished. But everyone who reads his words continues it. Everyone who remembers his story continues it. Because in the end, it is only people that count. This was the story of Lieutenant Bert Stiles, writer, pilot, human being. One story of millions, One life of those interrupted too soon. Stiles wrote so people would remember. He understood. If you don't record it, the story disappears. Voices fall silent, and no one will know what these people felt in humanity's darkest days. We continue his mission. On this channel, we tell forgotten stories of World War II, pilots and medics, sailors of Arctic convoys and paratroopers in Normandy, tank crews and scouts, those who fought on the front lines and those who saved lives in hospitals, the voices of those who weren't heard, diaries that gathered dust in archives, fates worthy of memory. Every day, a new story. Every day, a new name. A new voice from the past. Stories that aren't in textbooks, that didn't make it to Hollywood, but that deserve to be heard. If the memory of those who gave everything matters to you, if you want to learn stories every day that will change your understanding of war, if you believe that every life deserves to be told, subscribe to the channel, click the bell to receive a new story every day, and share this video. Send it to a friend, a family member, someone who cares. Because the more people remember, the louder the serenade sounds, the brighter the memory burns, the less chance we repeat the mistakes of the past. Tomorrow we'll tell you about medic Ray Lambert, about the man who landed in the first wave at Omaha Beach on D-Day, about the one who saved lives under fire when the sea turned red, about the man who saw hell on the beach and kept returning to it again and again, because there were wounded there, because they needed help, because, as Bert Stiles said, it is only people that count. See you tomorrow. Remember,